Okay, hey, what's up? Okay, quest design is one of those things in game development that's probably one of the more difficult concepts to understand and grab a hold of, right? There are a lot of things in game design that are difficult. Quest design has to be at the top of that list, in my opinion. At least if you want to do it well. The issue with quest design is that it's jumbled up into a lot of different other disciplines, right? Also, I moved over to Linux, so I have pen pressure. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. So quests are tied up into your narrative. They're tied up into your gameplay mechanics. They're tied up into what the system is willing to handle. And I'll break down all of these things as we go along. And of course, all of these things interconnect. It's all about the capacity of your team, right? If you only have so many people, you can only do so many fucking quests. That's the quantity. And then the time, right? If we had all the time in the universe, if I gave you like all the time in reality, you'd be able to do this, no problem. Quests are tied up into all these things. And of course, like nothing in game design is completely isolated, but quests are the most interconnected things ever in RPGs in particular, because this game design of RPGs. If you don't have a good narrative, I don't know what to tell you. Your quests are probably going to suffer. Your quests are going to suffer really badly. Their narrative is how you build the world. It's how you tell the quest, the story that you're telling. The systems that you have in play, whether that be your AI. Let's say that you were going off onto a quest and you have to go slay a dragon, right? I don't know what a dragon looks like. He breathes fire and shit, okay? And after you get to like a certain point in the quest, you have to pick up like a magical sword that's able to kill the dragon. And it's inside of a stone of some sort. Well, after you pull up the sword, ideally, what happens is that the weather effects kick in from the systems and lightning strikes. And it's kind of a cool moment, cinematically, anyway, because you have this cool fucking sword, and it's like, oh my god, it's so legendary that the gods are trying to stop it or whatever. But then you talk to your you talk to your programmers, you're like, okay, I need you to strike lightning when I pick up the sword. We can't do that. Not possible. Huh? Why isn't it possible? Well, because we designed the weather systems in their own fucking bubble, and at no point were they designed in a way that would be able to let them interact with cinematic cutscenes. You're going to have to do that by hand, like from scratch. This is not fun. You don't want to deal with this, and you definitely don't want to be the guy that's being held to account for the fact that your systems do not integrate well. The mechanics. What are you going to do during the quest? Right? Actually, I'll get to this last because it leads into my first point. Because there are types of quests, right? I already talked about the narrative, but like it's part of the things that you're going to be doing during the quest. It's all hinging on the narrative. It wouldn't make sense to slay a fucking dragon in a world that doesn't have dragons, or in a world that's trying to promote eco-friendly lifestyles or something, like you're conservationists or something, right? It wouldn't make sense. The time budget, how many quests can you fit into your fucking game? How long is your game? Do you have a short game, a long game? That's going to fit into your fucking quest design. You're not going to be able to make these huge epic dragon slaying quests if you have a short game. Well, you can certainly try, but it's going to suffer in quantity. How big is your team? How good is your team? You have to be honest. As long as you're honest and you're able to tell, all right, we have the skill to pull off at least 100 quests, that's going to be goaded. You're going to love that. But if you have three people, you you don't have the fucking skill, you're going to suffer. Don't fall into the trap. Okay. So the mechanics and the types of quests that we go on. I want to dispel this myth, right? Players complain all the fucking time that quests are boring in video games, and they're all fucking kill or fetch quests. Do not listen to players. That's the number one rule around here, okay? Never listen to the fucking player. The player doesn't know what they're talking about. There's only 4 types of quests in existence. All of them can be summed up into these 4 types: kill, fetch, talk, escort. Every single fucking quest, no matter what the game is, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the context is, it's all these. The only thing that separates kill quest A from kill quest B is context. This is what makes a good quest. And context is what builds from your narrative. It leaches in like mold. So let's say that we have a fetch quest where we need to go get a special thingamabob, a special rock, right? You can tell it's a holy rock. You have to go get the special holy rock from deep within a crypt. Well, after you fetch it and then you come back, it's kind of like, okay, why did I do that? The context is suffering. You don't know why you're getting this rock. You don't know what this rock does or what makes it so special or what makes it holy, why these people need it, and why it should matter to you as the player. This is like the number one issue with most quests is that they don't give you the fucking context because the narrative doesn't leach in enough. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about the narrative and why it doesn't really leach in the way that we think it probably should. and the trap that we fall into as game developers, especially in large open world games with 100 fucking quests. So there's categories, right? This is different than types. There are categories of quests. We have your main quest. This is going to be your critical path. This is the bare minimum that's needed to finish the game, right? Then you're going to have your side quest. We'll mark that with blue. Your side quests are going to branch off of the main quest, and the entire purpose of a side quest is to build the world. World building. That's the purpose of the side quests. This does not mean that the side quest should be worse than the main quest. The side quest should be equal in quality to the main quest. And the amount of thought that you should put into the side quest, the exact same you should put into the main. Issue with narratives is that, actually, no. Let's do the last category. The last type of quest, and I don't know if anyone defines it like this, but I call this the fragment. Fragment quests are their own standalone stories, right? Maybe you have this narrative arc for this one character who's trying to gain courage after he got beat up by some fucking Imperials, and like he's trying to get his willpower back so he can get back into the fight. This is a standalone quest. It's all about him and his dynamic. The things that he's going through is his narrative arc, his own personal thing. It doesn't necessarily tie into the world, even though it definitely could, and it probably should. It doesn't have to. So the pitfall that we run into whenever we're fucking doing quests is that for some reason we decide to make a main quest and then we use the word fill. This is stupid. We should never be doing this, but we do. We fill in the world. If the main quest is this much, well, now we have to fill the rest of the world with stuff for the player to do, or else they'll get bored. This is the wrong way to approach your quest design. What happens when we're filling the fucking world is have you guys played Dragon Age Inquisition? Dragon Age Inquisition has a very unique and special problem where you start off in the hinterlands. And because the way the hinterlands are built, not just the level design, but the quest design and the way they have you moving across the world, we would call this quest locomotion. It's the flow of the quest. Where does it move you to? In the hinterlands, it literally moves you, like this is the hinterlands, and you come in from here. The quest will move you here, then it'll move you here, then you'll move you here, then back, and then you have to get a yak and you have to drive him back over here, and then you have to do a fucking race course 3 times, 4 times, and then you have to come over here, and then you have to get over here. Like, did you know that there are like 15 other fucking sections? I don't know the exact number, but there's 15 other sections, right? This is just section 1. This is just the hinterlands. This is just the first fucking level, the first open world. There are 15 others. You never escape from this. It takes everything. It takes all of your time. It's a failure. Players will get halfway through and then they will say, okay, if I've had enough. They're not going to progress the fucking story. So the story goes unattended. They never go back to camp to recollect. They never really do anything with the stores or shopping. Everything is tied up into the fucking quest design. It's such a strange thing. And when you look at any like developer interviews, like developer retrospectives about how Dragon Age Inquisition ended up the way it did in terms of the hinterlands in particular and why that failed, the common thing they all say is, yeah, we never really gave you a break point. And you can't give them a break point. Break points happen with narrative. Let me explain that a bit better. So Skyrim, because you know I love fucking Bethesda games. One of the mods for Skyrim is a mod that allows you to come to the Jarl who's sitting on his throne, right? He has his fucking dick out, he's chilling. And here's that guy, and here's Irileth. And you come to him, your fucking horns. You say, bro, there's a fucking dragon that attacked Helgen. And he's like, whoa, that's crazy, dude. Thank you. And then he gives you some money, and then you can fuck off. Like it just stops. And if you want to continue, you walk over into the next room and you talk to the wizard, Farengar. He has a hood. He's hunched over some fucking papers or whatever, right? And you talk to Farengar and you say, hey, have you heard anything about the dragons? And you can ask him questions about it, and it'll allow you to progress the story into going into Bleak Falls Barrow. This is a breakpoint. You brought the quest to the Jarl. You told the Jarl what happened in Helgen, and here you can stop. You are free to fuck off. You are free to move on. This is the main quest. There is a narrative attached to it. But because there is a structure, we know when we can break off. We know when we can let the player do this. Now, of course, this is a mod. Bethesda did not do this. They didn't have that foresight. But this is ideally how we should do it. We should always allow the player the freedom to fuck off. Otherwise, the player gets fatigued. And the weakness of filling in your world like this is that you have no idea where the breakpoint is. Where is it? Where do you do this? In the hinterlands, where do you do this? Supposedly, the story goes that the moment you close the first wound, the first rift, you should go back to camp. You should go back to Skyhold. Well, you don't have Skyhold yet. But the moment you close the first one, you should fuck off. You should leave. That's weird. There's like fucking 12 of these things. And on top of that, there's a fucking checklist that says, all right, you have hit 1 out of 2 rifts in this area. Does that sound like we're done? It sounds like we're going to be done after we hit the second one, right? But after you hit the second one, you're going to be moving pretty close to an area that has another fucking rift. It might be tougher, it might be easier, but on top of that rift, you're also going to be introduced to like 5 other side quests. Like, this is tough. This is tough. There's no breakpoint. When do I get off the ride? Because these 5 side quests, they're going to take me all over the place. Well, they just introduced me to a rift up here, a rift down here they have to fucking close. And then that one has one that's up the mountain over here, and that mountain, I have to take this long winding path because the level design, for some reason, there's a shit ton of mountains in the hinterlands and you can't climb. There's no locomotion at all. So you have to walk, you have to run. And while you're running, here's another one. You just pass by it. Like, there's no breakpoint. There's none. Do I break off here? Do I break off here? Do I break off here? There's nothing. It's very strange, and you should avoid doing this. So our quests, besides falling into the trap of filling, right? That's trap number 1. Trap number 1 is to fill. Trap number 2 is to tutorialize everything. Now, this is understandable at first, right? The reason that we have the traditional story in RPGs where we have a quest, right? The traditional rat quest. I don't know how to draw a rat. Those are the whiskers, and he has rat ears, right? The rat quest. The rat quest has you going into some person's house and they say, yo, I have a rat problem. I need you to kill the rats. This does 3 things. 1, it introduces quests in general, how you start them, and how you finish them. It teaches you combat usually, right? And the unique systems of combat. Sometimes it's accuracy. They have a special penalty system, or maybe they're turn-based, right? It teaches you these things. All this is tied up into the rat quest. Well, after you have this tutorial, you think to yourself, okay, we're taking off the training wheels. But then you get to the next quest, and it's just another. Maybe this tutorial is about the importance of buying and selling items, or having certain key items, right? Well, now we're going to take off the training wheels for sure, for sure this time. And then you move on to the next quest, and now we have to teach you how to crawl through a dungeon and how to manage your torches, right? What happens when it's dark? You have to know how to manage these things. But that's okay. After this one, for sure, because we're going to slay the dragon next time. And the next time, we're going to slay a fucking dragon. We're going to kill a massive undead lord. Well, now we have to teach you about this special combat mechanic that only bosses have, like a revengeance mechanic or something. And he has like, I don't know if he has fucking 3 lives or something, dude. I don't know. The point is that this continues on, even all the way up to fucking so in Skyrim, once again, Skyrim, my favorite fucking video game. I love Bethesda, but I hate Bethesda. It's so complicated. So you start off prisoner, then dragon attack, then report, then Bleak Falls to get the dragon stone, then dragon. Once again, I don't know how to fucking draw a dragon. Is that a dragon? Is that a dragon? That's not a fucking dragon, dude. And after the dragon attack, we have the fucking Greybeards. Dovahkiin! Come up to the fucking mountaintop, Dovahkiin! And then you have to get a fucking a horn. So let's analyze this. This is half the fucking story. Okay? This was just a massive fucking cinematic. This combat. This quest interaction. This combat part 2 and dungeon crawling. This test your combat abilities. This shout tutorial. Like this continued on, right? And there's no break. At every moment you're going to have the main quest inside your quest log at all times. There's no stopping this. There's no fucking break point. That mod I was just talking about. Um, if I don't even play this part, so I don't know. But after your report, there's a break there, then there's a break there. After you get from back from Bleak Falls, you can give Farengar. Where's that guy? We lost him. He's gone. He's missing. Oh Jesus. We can give Farengar the Dragonstone, and he'll say, "Nice work," and you fuck off. Now, if you come back and talk to Farengar again, he will say the Jarl wants us. And then the Jarl will talk to some soldier, and the soldier's like, I just saw a dragon outside of Whiterun. We're all going to fucking die. And after you kill the dragon, you get called to fucking. The point is that we need breakpoints. And the tutorial trap will string you along into never doing anything interesting ever. This is the interesting part, by the way. What part of this was the world building? You tell me. The dragons, maybe? But no, whenever the fuck you have to go out and get the Dragonstone, you don't get to ask Farengar why you're getting the Dragonstone, right? He's like, oh, I gotta study it. I'm gonna study it. Okay, was what are you gonna do? What? Why do I care? You need this rock to study, but then as soon as you let him study it without the mod, the dragon attacks. So what did we get the Dragonstone for? What was the point of that? Did the Dragonstone awaken the dragon? There was no indication. There was no indication at all. The Dragonstone was, I can't remember if it was on a body after you killed the boss, like it was on his fucking body, or it was inside of a fucking chest. You're telling me as soon as I opened up this chest, it triggered the dragon into attacking Whiterun? What what happened? There's no reason, dog. I talk about reason in every fucking video. It feels like I'm going to continue to talk about reason in every fucking video, but especially when it comes to quest design, context is what makes our quests. You need a reason. This is not a fragment quest. This is the main quest. And there's, sorry, we're not going to talk about that. Let's keep talking about quest design. So, in order to make your quests more interesting, more engaging, whether that be your main quests or your side quests or your fragments, you're always going to need circumstance. I don't know how to spell circumstance. Of course, circumstance is reason. We're going to call it circumstance for now. So, what are circumstances? Circumstances, or context, are the situations that your player will get in order to trigger the quest. And this is where your systems will come into play and your mechanics will come into play to determine what type of system you can have here. Well, let's go with the traditional RPG system. Let's say you are an adventurer coming off your latest quest, and you are going into a fucking town, but you're stopped at the gate by two guards. They're like, halt, stop right there, you motherfucker. You're not allowed in. And then maybe they search you down or something. They do all this crazy, out of the ordinary shit to you, and it happens to your character. Maybe if you have a low enough perception, well, once again, systems. It's about the systems and the type of game you're making. What is allowed here? Maybe if you have a perception score and it's less than 10, maybe they will steal from you while they're searching you, and you'll hear the sound of, like, whenever you loot something, maybe you hear the sound cue of shuffling, right? And whenever they search you, you hear that sound cue. So something was stolen. You think something was stolen. And there's no prompt. Maybe there is. Who knows? But without the perception, maybe you can't ask about it. Maybe you can't ask about what they stole from you. All of this shit is happening. This is a massive fucking situation. All in one, like, conversation. All in one, like, 1 minute loop. All of this happens. And if you have the gall, the gumption, maybe this isn't tied into a perception score, you get to go to the next stage of the quest. Why the fuck did you search me? And if you have your perception up and you could hear them stealing from you, you could ask, why the fuck did you steal from me? And you're like, oh, damn, you got me. You got me. Lol, you got me. Fine, here's your shit back. Why are we doing this? Because somebody, like, kidnapped somebody's daughter or some shit, right? There's a princess, she's gone missing. And we think the person who did it can be identified via I don't know, a fucking MacGuffin, or a bag that they hold on them, or maybe they have a certain smell. There's many things that they could be searching for. Maybe they're searching your fucking hands. Maybe they're looking at your fingers to see if you have any, like, black marks in your hands that would indicate digging in dirt. and they would question you on that. Maybe there was a mechanical thing you did recently on your way up to this town where you decided to fight a mud monster, right? And the mud monster marked you with mud. And so now when you go to the fucking town, they suspect you. And that branches the fucking quest off somewhere completely different. And eventually you can come back and ask why, but not before you're in prison. You go through a whole rigmarole. Mechanics. These are all fucking mechanics. This is not difficult to do, it's time consuming to do. And it's complicated to do. But if you want to make a good RPG, these are the things you would be looking for. Anyway, you get to this step, and all of these things are going to be happening from you inquiring, right? You can choose to accept this quest right here in this conversation. Why? Because the princess went missing and we're looking for shit. Oh no, dude. In a fucking normal game, what they would do is they would bypass this choice and they would say, yeah, if you want to learn more, talk to the captain. And then boom, quest started. Talk to captain. Right? We do not want to do this. Remember, breakpoints are important. Doesn't matter if it's main or side, or even a fucking fragment. You always want breakpoints. Your player should have the choice to inquire about the quest. So why are we doing it? Because a princess went missing. Is there anything I can do to help? Quest accepted. I'm not sure, but you can talk to the captain, and maybe he'll have something for you to do. We could always use extra hands, right? Or maybe you say, "Oh, damn, that's too bad. As you can see, I'm innocent." Yeah, you're right. Move along. Now I understand why we do this. We all understand why we do this. We don't want players to miss content because this shit takes time to develop. But you have to trust that your player likes your game enough to do this. And if they don't, this is where you would tutorialize. I need to do an entire fucking video on tutorials. But if you want to make a tutorial here, make a tutorial about consequence. Let's say that you didn't inquire, and then 3 days pass. Those guards, now they are hooligans. If you come to the gate, they will ask you to pay money. And if you don't pay, they'll attack you. The local lord went crazy after his daughter went missing. He never got her back. When he found her, she was a lich. She killed him. And the town has gone to hell ever since. Because the chancellor got his hands on the seat of the governor, which used to be stable, and drove the town into trash. Now people have to do things like this to get by. Skim extra money where they can. And all of that happened because you didn't take the quest when it appeared to you. This isn't a thing about like time limits, right? It can be, but the fact that the captain knows that someone else is on this journey with him trying to find this girl will give him more gumption to keep this going for longer. He'll keep the search up for longer. If it was just him searching and these idiots at the gate who didn't know any better, he would have given up and the lich thing would have come true because the necromancer who was behind it, maybe he said, okay, now I'm in the clear. Now I can do bad shit. Yeah, I'm so cool. I'm a necromancer. The point is that context here allows the player to choose whether to do the quest. Maybe there's a marker, maybe there's not a marker. The point is that all this is coming from the idea of circumstance. You chose to ignore or accept that quest. This is what quest design should look like, but we do not do this. We should do something more like this. Okay? The situation can become unfavorable if we do not navigate our conversations properly. So, missing content, if you want tutorial, it's your importance is that you matter in the world. And that's what all RPGs should strive to embrace, that our players matter. So let's talk about like side quests that we get all the time that are absolutely dog shit, right? Nobody likes these, but we do it anyway for some reason. Because we want to fill up the world. So we have the potion delivery side quest, right? This is a fetch quest. I need you to bring this potion to some lady who's sick with a cough. Cough, cough. Oh, I'm so sick. Deliver this potion. And then you deliver the potion. Thank you. I feel so much better. I instantaneously feel so much better. The potion doesn't take time to take effect. Oh, I feel better because instant gratification. Here, plus 300 XP. Nice work. Good boy. And here's 200 gold for delivering a potion to me. I love you. Let's get married. This is the result of filling up the world. Whenever we finish a quest, there should be some tangible change. Instead of how do I describe this? Okay. So instead of this situation being deliver a potion to some person who needs a potion, this should be more like we can deliver a potion. It can still be a fucking fetch quest. I'm not saying you have to put in maximum effort. But instead of just a potion, it's a crate of potions. And they're on a shipment. And the shipment is going to some town, right? And maybe on the way to the town, we kill bandits who are on the route. And these bandits, these are bad guys. We don't want to fuck with these guys. But since we're moving this shipment, we kill these bandits. And because we killed these bandits, not only does the medicine get there safe, but also the bandits are gone. Now, some worlds, they just say, oh yeah, some new bandits came and filled in where the old bandits were. But it's possible that the trade route that we used to move these potions, it got cleared up, and now that we've cleared the route enough for guards to take over, now it's secure. And so now when we travel this road, it's safe. And wherever we deliver this crate of potions to, maybe potion prices are lower in that town because we've secured a trade route. It's easier to maintain something than to found something. We're founding a trade route here. So killing these bandits, we have all these extra follow-on things that happened. If we delivered the potion to this woman, this is the issue, I think. The issue is that we think we have to deliver this potion to the woman, and then this woman has to go on and live her life for like 3 years and then become a master alchemist. And now she sells a super special potion that's super powerful, and it'll boost all stats by 1 because you saved her that one time. For some reason, this is the conception that game developers have of long-term consequence, right? And this isn't a bad thing. Witcher does this. Witcher does this, and we love The Witcher. The issue with long-term is that, and don't get me wrong, this can also be long-term, but you can see the benefits of this immediately. As soon as you turn around, turns out there are guards following you, and now they have outposts that they're building, and like, I don't know, how long does it take to build a fucking wooden outpost? A week? So 7 days later, we have these fucking outposts, these pillboxes that are stood up on the road, and they will defend travelers who come by. It doesn't have to be the 3 years. She doesn't have to become a master alchemist. Or maybe she always was one. The point is that when we have these long wait times for a choice and consequence in our quests, what happens is the player will do the quest, and then they will fuck off, and they will not come back. They will not understand what they did 50 hours later when you decide to bring her back up. Who is this? Oh, thank you for your help that time. Who are you? I've interacted with 800 NPCs, and my daughter is missing. Who the fuck are you? Okay, I'll take the free potion, thank you, but I don't understand who you are. I have lost my reason. I have lost my context. This is not good. It's okay. It's not perfect. We want perfection. We want to seek perfection. We will never reach perfection. We can fucking seek it. And this is probably not close to perfection. Immediate satisfaction is important to players because I've talked about this before in the dungeon video, but we are not in the days of D&D where our imagination alone can carry the game. We are in the internet age where we have guides, where we have fucking maximum productivity, where we have efficiency. And it's super important that we don't feel that we're wasting our time. For some reason, we don't know how to be leisurely. We can't do these things. It's the internet age. It's not the D&D age. It's not wonders and unicorns and butterflies and rainbows. Okay, I'm sorry. So you can't do this long wait shit. It comes out with this consequence. And it doesn't hurt the game. It just makes it so that the quest didn't really matter. You did it, and you don't really remember why you did it. And if you were following a guide, maybe it says, yeah, make sure you give her the potion within a certain amount of time. And don't spike it with a poison. Don't kill her. And she'll give you +1 to all stats. And it feels like a mechanical choice, especially when you come back to repeat the game, because now you know, okay, that's a +1 potion. I'm always going to do this. It doesn't really increase the replay value. It just makes it another chore. And that's what we want to avoid. A lot of these games decide to have quests as chores. They don't have to be chores. They can be interesting. So a tactic that I personally like to use is that I like to build my world first. Then, after that, I like to build the people and factions that make up the world. And then I can create this normal narrative that I will call history. And from history, we branch off into the main story. Because with this, and ideally, you have a narrative designer who does this shit for you. all right? Because doing it by yourself is painful, it's obnoxious, and it's hard to keep track of it, even with a game design document. But your main story should be one of the last things you design narratively. This is least priority. The reason you want it least, like, so low down the hierarchy is because with history and with context, we know why things happened. We have kings who came, they ruled nations, and then they fell, right? They rose and then they fell. And those stories inform us of things that could be happening to get them up to that point and to bring them low. And those are extra stories that can branch off, right? Those are fragments. We have all these fragments. Maybe when he fell, a rebel group was founded because they don't like the people who came in to replace him. Or maybe when he was rising, he had the help of some terrorist organization. And he used this terrorist organization to kill his brother, his competitors. And after he became a king, he disbanded them. Well, after he fell, they came back into the play. They came back into the fold. This is a fragment. And it could be, if you really wanted it to be, a side quest. There are these terrorists who are going around looking for funding, and depending on when this king fell, you will have to tackle that. You will have to deal with the terrorists that were left behind from the old king's rule. The structure is all happening because you already know how the world was built. Imagine trying to make a story without the source material. Now, you don't have to imagine, because that's what the fuck happened with Game of Thrones. Do you know why Dance of the Dragons or whatever the fuck it's called is just fine right now? Because the source is complete. Game of Thrones, that shit stopped when what was his name? You know nothing, Jon Snow. When that guy died in the books, he died. In the show, they were like, okay, resurrect. If you don't know this, if this is a spoiler to you, I don't care. It's been long enough. Okay, it's been over 10 years. You're gonna be okay. They resurrected him because they were like, I don't know what the reason was actually. I'm not going to try to talk on that. The point is that without the source material, they decided to go down this alternate plot line, and people hated it. It was very obvious that the story has gone out the fucking window. Things are inconsistent. History is way the fuck back here. Instead of history continuing on, they can't do that because they are not the canon author. But I'm sorry. This is tangentially related. The point is that you need the world to make your story. You need the world to make your side quests. You need the world. World building is super important. Do this. Do not be scared of this. And if you don't have a narrative designer, I'm sorry to hear that. Every RPG needs a narrative designer. If you see an RPG coming out and they don't have a narrative designer, if they don't tell you anything about the fucking world and the game's not launched yet, bro, they should be able to write a book about the things that have happened in the world before you get to play in it. If they can't do that, that's a problem. You know what's super enticing about Naruto? Well, I don't know if it's enticing, but what's super interesting whenever you read any like fan fiction of Naruto is that you realize very quickly, wow, there's actually a lot more to this world than what the fucking show let on. If you go like the Naruto wiki, it tells you all about the fucking five nations, and it tells you all about the wars. You know, because the story of Naruto starts with Kyuubi being born during the third Ninja War. What the fuck were the second and the first? Well, these have stories. This is built. These exist. And exploring that is something that happens in some of these fan fictions. It is super cool. And of course, the fourth Ninja War happens, but this is a continuation. The story is being continued. History is continuing, it's progressing. Your main story is just part of history progressing. It flows like time, like a river. It continues to go. This is good. This is cool. It makes your player feel like they're in the world. This happens in all types of fucking things. Fucking One Piece? Do you know what the fuck was happening before Luffy's story? Gold Roger, right? Gold D. Roger. It's that guy with this cool mustache. He wasn't a pirate king back then. Do you know what was before Gold D. Roger? You'd have to be a fucking mega nerd to know this, but it was, what was that guy? I think his name was Rocks. And what was before Rocks? Joy Boy. There is history to this fucking world far before our protagonist steps into it. And we get to explore that history through stories. Well, as a player, I would like to explore this fucking history by seeing the results of it. The age of pirates started because of Goldie Roger. I'm living the age of pirates. I don't remember what the fuck Rocks did, but Joy Boy created awareness within the world government. And so now the government is hunting. And they have been hunting ever since Joy Boy. And every time they get spooked, like they hear a little bit about Joy Boy's devil fruit or whatever the fuck was going on, every time they hear about the fucking poneglyphs, I don't know the story. All right, sue me. Every time they hear about this shit and the red line, whatever the fuck they have going on, I'm sorry. Once again, I'm not caught up on the lore at all. It causes them to go crazy, and they do crazy shit when they act crazy. And if I was a player, I would get to experience a crazy government. Wow, that's cool. Isn't that exciting? I think that's exciting. Anyway, yeah, so build up your world. Do not be scared to build up your world. Every piece of fiction builds up their world, and they are better off for it. Elder Scrolls used to do this. They do not do this anymore. There is an entire world behind Tamriel. There is an entire system of gods. Aedra, and the Daedra who said, no, I'm not making Mundus. And Lorthren, and fuck, there's so much behind it, and you don't get to experience any of it. It's all the fights of gods. But we are in like Tiber Septim. Like how many Tiber Septims have we lost? They're all gone by Skyrim. All of them. We have a fucking invasion from an Aldmeri force. We know nothing about the Somerset Isles. We know nothing about Tiber Septim in Skyrim unless you played the previous Elder Scrolls, unless you played Oblivion. We know nothing about the previous ages, and time is continuing, but it doesn't fucking feel like it. Because the world building has been isolated. It's been cut off from the history that you as the player experience. This is bad quest design. Our quest should be able to journey on. I have no idea what this pose is. I did this backwards. There we go. Our quest should be able to build onto the world building. It's very important that it does. Every quest that you do should build into the world. And okay, here's what's cool about building up the world. Because we know cause and effect already, we kind of know all the factions and we know how they would react to the player's actions. So let's say we have a faction. Back to the potion example. Where's our potion example? I have no idea what the potion example. Okay, here it is. Back to the potion example. So let's say that I'm sorry, what the fuck did we say happened? Okay, we secured the trade route. We know factions, right? We know the bandits, though. We know the bandit faction. And they decide to move elsewhere. This is a reaction we can know of because we know these bandit factions. We know the leader. We know the person. And this can spawn an entire series of side quests or fragments, right? These can be their own standalone stories. You want to fill up the fucking world? Then fill it up with the consequences of the player. We know the leader. We know his fucking name. It's Leader Quinn. It's an entire fucking character who spawned from the world, right? He's another soldier that died in. I'm sorry. He's another soldier that defected from the previous war that the Empire was in. And he couldn't go back to his fucking hometown, otherwise they'd make a fucking joke of him. He needed to go back with money. He needed to go back with lots and lots of money. And when he finally got the money, he tried going back, but he found his town was destroyed. And he was wanted. They saw his wanted poster. He became a bandit. There's reasons why Quinn exists. There's reasons why Quinn is the way Quinn is. And your quest from saving this trade route can bring you into interacting with Quinn. We have a character here that was built from the world, a character that always existed. And because you knew about him, the choice and consequence was able to be played out very fucking easily. Let's look at the hinterlands. In the hinterlands, there's this quest where you have to get a buffalo that has wandered away from its fucking herd, and it's fighting like I don't know if it's actually a buffalo. I don't even remember what the fuck it was shaped like. It was some type of ox thing. And it was fighting some fucking wolves. You can come back and you can kill the wolves and you can save the buffalo. Well, now the twist of the quest comes. You have to escort this motherfucker all the way back to his pen, filled with a bunch of other fucking buffalo. And it's a long trek. And it also, like, at some point interacts with the rift, but you close the rift, and it's kind of the end of it. If the Hinterland's world building was strong enough and done early on enough in the development process, this has to be said. Once again, the world building comes first. You should know the world you are building in before you even start development. This should be in your GDD. Not everything. Let your narrative designer handle everything. Your narrative designer will do you right. Trust this guy. But you, as the developer, as a game designer, should know what happens if you didn't bring this guy back and what would happen if you did. And let's say it was a fucking fragment quest, right? Let's say it was a fragment, its own little mini quest. It should still have consequences that can branch out and reach you back in the main. It would feel good if it did, and we should aspire for that. So a fragment that would reach back in the main would probably look like that buffalo remembering you and coming along with some of his brothers to help you in a certain fight. It's important that these are developed in some way, right? You want this. You always want this. Trivial chores, everything should build the world. That's what we should aim for. I'm looking back at my notes. Dialogue alone shouldn't convey world building. Yeah, no shit. We're not making books. We're making video games. Okay, people play these. What did I just draw? Oh my god. People play these things. Okay. Every time that you are talking about the fucking Adra and shit. I forgot how to spell Adra. Every time you're talking about the Adra and all this, you are depriving the player of being the Adra or whatever the fuck. They should have a way to experience the world building without reading a book. Side quests are great for this, right? You go to a fucking historian and you have to open up a fucking door, and this door leads you to a tomb of the Adra. This word, well, I don't fucking know. Before Mundus was made, they did all these things, and while you're fucking walking and killing shit, your quest guide, your escort, because it's an escort, because every fucking mission is one of the four, is an escort mission. Your escort is telling you about this fucking Adra and all the crazy shit he's been doing. Maybe there's murals inside that you can look at as the player, and like you can see the lore of this Adra and how he stood and created I don't know, a MacGuffin, and he protected everyone behind him, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. The point is that we want the player to have their hands on the controller. We want them to be doing this. We want them to be interacting. And there's more imaginative ways to do this. I'm not perfect. I'm not the perfect quest designer. I'm not the perfect narrative designer. But I know it can be better. I know we can do better. Branching story. Okay, let's talk about managing this shit. This shit's difficult. Managing is difficult. I get it. Managing is very difficult. I like to use a funnel system. So, something very cool in visual novels, in VNs, especially kinetic VNs, kinetic visual novels, are visual novels that have a defined path. They have a defined end. And what happens in kinetic novels is that if you don't do it exactly the way developers intended, you reach a bad end. This is very cool in visual novels because it's very quick to start over. In most RPGs, it is not quick to start over. So instead of a bad end, we need permanent issues, or we can call them curses. They don't actually have to be like magical curses and hexes and shit from a witch, but it can be something like a loss of trust, right? Losing trust, that's a permanent curse. And it cuts you off from a lot of different things. Maybe those things would have come in handy. Maybe those things would have led you to a magical sword. I love talking about magical swords, you couldn't tell. Or maybe it could lead you to a fucking key that you could use to open up a lock inside of a dungeon that had a door that you couldn't open because you didn't have this key. And because you lost trust, you couldn't get this key. There's things we lose, right? And we can funnel them all into one place. Rather than a funnel, I should really describe it more like a tree. I've already referred to this a couple times, but whenever we're designing our stories, we're making branches. The difference between us and a tree is that the branches end. We do not want to end. We want to go up, and the branches should go up with us. And eventually they should merge back into the main branch. And the branch should become stronger because we merge back into it. It should become an even bigger branch, right? Once again, what am I drawing, bro? Oh god. Let's not look at that anymore. uh Baldur's Gate 3, another example. We've used this example before. Um Very beginning of the game with the Druid's Grove. Right? They're doing a fucking ritual that's going to close it. It's going to kick out the refugees. Refugees go home. England is full. Or where they said the grove is full. Of course, the story guides you to solving this crisis, whether by kicking the refugees out or making them stay through some method, whether that be persuasion, force. How do I draw enough? I'm just going to make a talking head. Persuasion, force, whatever the fuck. We have methods to make the refugees stay. This is the branch. And the issue, this isn't an issue, and maybe this can be overstated, but they are combining into something that is stronger on the whole. Just not that much stronger. I'm not going back to that image. It's not that much stronger though. What comes out is choice two, because you made choice two, and now choice two is the conditional. If two true, then effect signal, and these things will like hit the line and it stays the same size, and it'll hit the line, it'll stay the same size. You get the potion +1 all stats. This guy says thanks, +1 rep. It hits the line, hits the line, but the story continues on unabated. It's unchanged. It's very kinetic. Um, this is very aspirational. I'm not sure if we're ever going to be able to do this, but one day I hope that when we're making these stories, we get to a point where they're able to gain more power and become exponentially more intertwined within themselves. I hope that one day our stories stop looking like trees and start looking like double helixes. I hope they start looking like weird organic masses where the effects that we take in little side quests, these little paths that we take, eventually coalesce into something even greater. And I hope that we can have these like fragments that make the story signal out that it's stronger, and we have those blips of the fragments built into the narrative. I hope I don't know if that makes sense at all, but ideally we look for that. Ideally, we look to build our worlds, our games, our stories, our quests like this. And it's difficult. I'm sorry, it's not difficult. It's time consuming and it's complex. Like I said at the very beginning, this quest design is a combination of so many things. It's a combination of all of these fucking things, and we have to nail them all on the fucking head as soon as they happen. Now I want to talk about some pitfalls real quick. Some things that I'm unsure about, because I'm not perfect. I'm sorry. Yes, I am perfect. Everything I say is true. I'm always right. So some pitfalls, Luther's pitfalls, right? Do players need to understand choice and consequence? Do the players really need to know what happens if they fail this? Do they need to know? Do they need to know all of the options that are available to them? I don't think so. I think it's okay to keep the player in the dark. I think it's okay to treat the player as if this is their third time doing it. I think by doing this, on the first time, what happens is they are confused and they feel kind of stupid, but they feel intrigued. Now, I don't know. I don't know if this is actually going to happen. It might be that they get bounced off because they're like, okay, this is stupid. This is fucked. I'm done. They feel intrigued. They feel like, okay, I'll come back. I'll do that again. And they have a second time. And on the second time, they get it. But on the third time, after they get it, because get it is like you're comfortable. After the third time, they're surprised. If you make the choice and consequence as if this is their third time playing, and they don't really understand it on their first time, and you trust them to come back, you trust them to do this, I think that's the right choice. I don't know. I can be persuaded off this. I feel like there's something to that. I feel like there's something to designing the game as if your player has already played it before. There's probably something there. And of course, you can't just make everything esoteric. Dark Souls lore, right? You pick up a fucking pair of pants, and it tells you how a knight pissed in them or something, and it's talking about like the old kingdom or wherever the fuck. Like, once again, I talked about this already. Where is it? Your narrative. They should not be experiencing your narrative. Here we go. We're playing a game here. We do not want to experience our narrative through something that is not gameplay. A knight who came and he pissed his fucking pants, and there's an old kingdom, and there's a fucking sword here, and the sword is fucking is like, yeah, it's used by the fucking Knights Order, the Knights Watch. They were cool guys in the old kingdom. We don't get to fucking see them. We don't get to play with them. We don't get to travel around the ruins of their order. We don't really, and if we do, we don't know it's them. This is all text, and this is obnoxious. This is not a book. We are playing a game. This is not good. This is esoteric. I cannot find out about the world without going through each and every fucking thing. And this is also like a guilty issue with books in RPGs, right? Imagine getting a book, fucking 18 pages, dense as hell. And it's one guy's perspective. And it's cool. And it's interesting if like you're into reading. But I'm more into playing. And I feel like this is probably the laziest way to go about telling your player about the world that they're in and how people's perspectives work around it. You know how you can find out people's perspectives about the world that they're in? Talk to them. Let them talk. Or even better, give them a little fucking fragment quest. You can learn so much about them and their own personal journey and their perspective about this world and their philosophy. All of this from the fragment. And you get to play it. It's super interesting when you get to play it. This isn't bad. And there's a lot of dense lore that comes in these books and lots of different RPGs. I see it all the time, but this lazy. It's lazy. It can be done better. I hate to see this. Some additional considerations that I don't really have a place to put these, but we have a problem where players hoard their quests. What will happen is a player will come in, and they'll go here, get a quest, and they'll go here, get a quest, and they'll go here, get a quest, they'll come over here, get a quest, and then they'll come and trace their way to the castle for the main quest, and then they will leave town, and they will traverse the map, doing all those fucking quests along the way. And we are guilty of this because we designed the game in such a way that they are allowed to fucking do this. And then they find the big bad is up this road on a mountain somewhere. They kill the big bad. Quest complete. Now they have to fucking turn it in. And it just so happens that behind the big bad, remember how in a previous episode about dungeon design, I said that Bethesda likes to design their dungeons like loops. Not always, but most of the time like loops. And the exit of the dungeon is almost always near where you have to go next. Well, the exit of the dungeon leads you onto this back road that previously you couldn't fucking reach because it was too high up. It was on the mountain, and now you're climbing down the mountain to get back into the town through the side way, over somebody's house or something. Now you turn in all the fucking quests. this is the curse of efficiency. Where did I put that one? Where I say players like to be efficient because it's not the D&D games. It's a curse of efficiency. It's a curse of using their time effectively. They don't like to be leisurely. They like to max it out. And they're using a fucking guide to 100% it, so they don't have to do this shit a second time because nobody wants to do a second playthrough. Which is why I'm not really too sure about this understanding choice of consequence thing. It could be dangerous. Because players act like this. They've been trained to act like this. This is what the common game sense is now. And I'm not really a fan of telling the player to have different game sense. We should play into their game sense. We should circumvent it. We should disrupt it. But we shouldn't eliminate it. Game sense makes sense. If you shoot this red barrel, what happens? That's right, it fucking explodes, right? Game sense. Your game sense tells you that. You've played enough games where you know that's the truth. You know that's a common thing that happens. They explode. We don't want to eliminate this. This is good. It's a common design language, and it makes it super easy for players to get into your world and understand it and engage with it and immerse themselves. This is stupid though. Quest hoarding? I think that quest hoarding is a necessary feature, however, whenever you have a game where a player does not return to a location. So quest hoarding is good if it's a one-time thing. And this happens, once again, we build our games like this. We build our games in such a way that we allow the player to do this. After you go to Riverwood in Skyrim, Do you ever go back? No. After you get the call from High Hrothgar, where is that? Holy shit. Where's High Hrothgar? After you get the call from High Hrothgar, you have to go not to Riverwood. You have to go to Iverstead. Now, the route to Iverstead can lead you back through Riverwood to go around, but usually the players will not take this route. Usually they will not go backwards to Riverwood because they think there's no content there. Instead, they'll go the long way around because like Whiterun is on like the backside of High Hrothgar. It's paying that. So the point is that the route that the players will take, the only thing that they'll lead that the path will lead them back to is Helgen, and that's more of a narrative choice. That is more of a look at the impact of what you just escaped from. Isn't this dangerous? Look at the stakes. It's more of a moment like that. And it's less of a moment of like, okay, there is mechanical reason to return back to Helgen. A mod for Skyrim, another mod, allows you to rebuild Helgen. The mod isn't exactly built to the highest tier of quality or anything, but if this happened, if this ability to rebuild Helgen happened while you're walking your way to High Hrothgar, because you were trying to get to Iverstead, and you passed Helgen, this is a reason to come back. Ragavir, the Stormcloak who was in the fucking in the carriage with you, he was like, I wonder if old girl is still making those fucking juniper berries with the mead with the juniper berries in it. Oh, I love that. I love that shit. Let's say you were walking back through Riverwood to get to Helgen so you can get to Iverstead, and some woman comes in and she says, hey, that girl who died in the fire that Ragavid made with the juniper berries, yeah, can you deliver this to Ragavid? She had one more batch for him, but she didn't really get to. Look, we have extra content in Riverwood, and it unlocked only after we decided to come back. It did not happen on the first time. It happened on our second time. What happens if something else happened on their third time coming back into town? This is recursive quest design. And I am not exactly sure the best way to go about doing it. I know that it's super interesting. Now, I'd love to see more. I'd love to see games that explore this. Because as of right now, the only recursive quest design you're going to get is like dynamic worlds, right? So in Kenshi, after you fucking kill a town, and after you after you fucking destroy a town, you kill everybody in that motherfucker, you fuck off. You and your crew fuck off. If you come back, I don't know, like 2 in-game days later, the town is rebuilt and it has a new faction inside of its walls. Sometimes that faction is hostile, sometimes they're good. It depends on the state of the world. It's dynamic. It depends on the state of the world of who occupies that space that you just destroyed for fun, for funsies. That's recursive. You came back and the world has changed in such a way that it might be worth it to explore this new faction who has settled down in the ruins of what you personally destroyed. Let's talk quest requirements. So, whenever we're designing our quests, we should have a reasonable assumption of our player's power level, right? If our player is fucking level 9,000, we probably don't want um we probably don't want them delivering gooseberry mead. That probably seems like a bad idea. Instead, they should be leaning into that level 9,000. But let's not use power. Let's not use power as the gauge of what I mean here. We're talking about quest design. We always want to talk about narratives, right? Because that's what quests are. It's basically your narrative. So if we make an assumption that our player has access to a lot of, I don't know, flares, right? Maybe we have like a little survival story. We've gathered a lot of resources. We've gathered a lot of fucking food. We have apples, right? We have a lot of torches. We can make that assumption of our player. And because of that, the way we design the quest and the quest steps, we can stress our players in ways that normally we wouldn't be able to, right? But once again, this is ideal. Ideally, we can do this. An open world game where they're allowed to fucking break it and go off and do whatever they want and come back whenever. We probably can't do this. I talk about this more in dungeon design. You can go watch that video if you're interested in what I'm talking about here. But we should be able to make assumptions of what the player is capable of doing and design our quests in such a way that we can take advantage and potentially play with that expectation. If they have a lot of food, we can create a place in which they're always hungry. And this quest is to fix their hunger. Maybe it's a curse or some sort. I don't know. And it's always fucking dark. And we can design this quest. We can make it as extreme as we want because we know they have torches. Lots and lots of torches. We know a common thing a player, just like players know that barrels that are red explode. We as developers have like common misnomers that we know players do. All players hoard potions. They all do this. This is normal. This happens all the time. They don't use their potions until the last fucking second. The only potions they actually use are the stat boosting potions. They don't use their healing potions. So if we create scenarios, we create quests where those healing potions would come in handy, and lots of them, we can create very interesting gameplay scenarios to go along with their quests. This is more of a gameplay design thing than a quest design thing, but in order to do the gameplay, you kind of have to have a reason to do the gameplay, and the reason is the quest, right? We want to play with that a bit. Another weird consideration, I'm not really sure about this one, I can be persuaded off of it, is quest items, right? Well, I'll use Skyrim as the example again. There's a golden claw that you get from Bleak Falls Barrow. And you can return it to Camille and whatever the fuck his name is inside the store in Riverwood. If you never talk to them, you never knew that it belonged to them. Except unless you read the fucking note that came along with the guy who was holding the claw before you got it off him. And you killed him for it. He has a note, a diary explaining about how he stole this claw from a trader in Riverwood. It's up to you to not only read this note, but it's up to you to return the claw. Some players do not return the fucking claw. Sometimes because they don't know to. Other times because they just can't be fucked. In Skyrim, I'm not sure if this is true, but what happens if you could sell the claw? Is that okay? Would the quest fail? I don't know. Is that okay? What if we had a super valuable dragon egg? Right? Is it okay to eat the dragon egg? What happens if this cuts off like 10% of the entire game's narrative by eating this fucking dragon egg? Should we allow our players to do this? Should we allow our players to basically fuck the narrative in this way? I'm not sure. The last point I want to make is avoid trivial rewards, right? This shit about gold stacks, this is only good for so long. How many games have you played where the economy is absolutely busted because the player has fucking, they've been given so much fucking money just by playing the fucking game? Make them stress more. The rewards for quests should be more intangible. In my opinion, anyway. Gold is nice, and it can be a reward in exchange, right? You don't get reputation, but you get gold. Allowing our players to choose how they would like to be rewarded is probably something that's worth talking about, but I'm not exactly sure how to go about that because I'm terrible at balancing, and this is a balancing thing. But please don't give them fucking nice work. Here's 20 copper for cleaning my rats. Thanks for cleaning my fucking rats, yes. Oh man. Anyways, I think I'm done. That's what I want to talk about for quest design. This video is too long. I got other shit to do. I'm joking, I don't have anything else to do.